Thanks so much, Adrienne. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the value of saying I don't know on building a culture of learning. So I know I was just introduced, but I'll talk a little bit about myself and my story. Who am I? I'm a software engineer at a company called Ticket Leap. I'm sometimes manager of engineers. I don't manage a team at the moment, but I have in the past. It's something I really enjoy a lot. I'm a chapter leader and instructor for GDI here in Philly, and I'm also a mom. You can see my contact information down there. Feel free to tweet me at not_Pele, or give me an email at elise@girldevelopit.com. One thing is that I super love questions, as normally I appear as an instructor in front of a small group of folks, and one of the things that I love so much is answering questions. One of the reasons I run into the occasion to say I don't know. So this is not a great format for questions, but feel free to tweet at me questions anytime, really on any topic, but certainly for today, this is probably going to be the one that we care about. So, how did I get where I am right now? I actually have an undergraduate degree in photography, and then I self-taught HTML, CSS, and JavaScript through college, continued as a hobbyist, and then started eventually as a digital project manager. At that point, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up. Maybe I'll find out when I grow up. But I was there, did that for a couple of years, and then worked alongside some really fantastic technologists, great developers, great programmers, and worked with them to build these projects where they got to know me, I got to know them, and eventually I said, this is the job that I want to do. I want to be hands-on. I want to be a maker of things. Not necessarily an orchestrator of processes, though that's cool too, but I want to get my hands dirty. And so I convinced them to take me. They knew me. I showed them this wacky portfolio that consists of all those things that Adrienne just mentioned, and if I look at that portfolio right now, obviously I feel this deep and abiding sense of embarrassment, as we all do when we look back on our old code projects. But nonetheless, I convinced them to take me. So that was back at the very end of 2008. Here is a picture of me in 2009, about 6 months after I began as a full-time developer. That look on my face is finally that feeling that I have no idea what I'm doing and I've made a horrible mistake. It's that feeling finally dropping away. So after about 6 months, I started to finally feel comfortable with my decision to make a career change. The 6 months leading up to that were less fun. So, when it comes to saying I don't know, I know some things. I've been in some spots where I was really the newbie, and I think that we've all been there. So who in the crowd has ever been asked a question that just kind of stopped you, like a deer in headlights? Whether it's in front of a classroom or by a teammate or in any circumstance, I think we've all been there. And who loved that? Who was really excited about that? Okay, that's what I thought. Most people hate not knowing. In fact, we dread it. We are terrified of it. But why? Why are we so nervous about that uncertainty? What is it actually that bothers us? Looking and feeling ignorant. That's probably the biggest one. People will think that I just don't know what I'm talking about, which may or may not be true. Being unprepared, which is a little bit different. Is this something that I should have known coming in, basically? Losing credibility and respect. So when people find out that I don't know the answer to this question, will their opinion of me actually change? And then stereotype threat. Show of hands, people familiar with the idea of stereotype threat? Cool. Stereotype threat, for folks not familiar, is the idea that as a member of some particular population, you might do something to reinforce, usually a negative stereotype about that population of people. So for example, as a woman in tech, if I don't know the answer to a question, do I come off as a poor representation of women? Do I reinforce the idea of the person asking me that question that maybe women don't belong in tech, maybe women don't know what they're doing in tech? That's the idea of stereotype threat. And then plenty of other things. So I'm sure that we all have our own individual experiences and baggage that come along with some time that we were asked a question we didn't know the answer to. So to get just a little bit Zen Buddhist on you, all of these factors are either in your head or out of your control. So what can you do? Reframe it. So I'm going to go through a list of about 7, I think there's like some half reasons in here too, but 7-ish reasons that saying I don't know is actually a really great thing. So reason number 1 is you learn to be okay with it. I consider saying I don't know and saying it with some amount of maybe even pride, as a big F you to imposter syndrome, right? You get used to saying it, you get the people around you used to hearing it, your teammates used to hearing it. Hey, maybe they'll start saying it too. You learn that the world doesn't end when you show vulnerability. I think that's a really, really big one. Yeah, we can put ourselves out there, and I think that's a theme that we're hearing a lot today. And then not knowing makes you human. None of us are perfect. Everybody has these little pitfalls, these little gotchas, and it's okay to not know. It's really okay. I promise it's okay. And people may find you even more approachable when you do these things, as Adrienne mentioned. So honesty, very important by itself, but also it builds credibility. So don't waste your time pretending you know everything. In a team situation, if somebody asks you how to do a certain kind of task and you actually don't know how to do it, it saves time for you to be honest and say that you don't know. They can either point you to the documentation, point you to a good resource, or maybe they want to show you how to do it, or maybe they say, that's okay, take some time and figure it out. But honesty is really important in those scenarios. People have pretty good BS detectors. If you've ever encountered somebody who's trying to constantly fake their way through, especially a work situation, you know how awkward it is. You know that they don't know. Eventually you can figure it out and you realize, oh my gosh, this person has really been wasting all of our time. And not that people shouldn't try to figure things out for themselves, but you can always preface that with, I don't know, but let me give it a shot. So authenticity, a very popular concept right now. Everybody wants to be authentic. And as I kind of mentioned all along, better now than later. Better that you tell your team, that your teammates tell you that they don't know the answer to a question or how to accomplish something up front. And then if you have time to explore and experiment with that, you take that opportunity. And if you don't have time for that, then you find another way to accomplish that task. So once you've said, I don't know, then follow a whole avalanche of other great things. Number 3 on our list, learn to trust yourself. So in this scenario, you have said you don't know, but the next thing you can do is offer your best guess. So when I don't know the answer, what does my gut say? What is my gathering of a life experience, things I've seen other people do? What is my best guess? And then you learn to trust your judgment. You can explain your reasoning as to how you reached that conclusion, and then check your answer. So that's a fun opportunity. You get to practice the research process. Now, this is one of my favorite parts. Problem solving is one of the most important skills in tech, right? We say that, I don't know, 40%, 50%, 60% of an engineer's job is Googling, right? Googling and Stack Overflow, it's all about research and finding the answers to questions that you haven't figured out how to solve before. And that's basically the equivalent of saying, I don't know, right? So rather than asking somebody for the answer, maybe somebody on your team already knows the answer, but is it more valuable to ask them how they would find the answer? What are the resources that they like? What are the thought processes they would use to solve that problem? And then how do they test their solution to find out whether it was right or wrong? So this is super fun because it's a huge opportunity to learn. 4.5, see, I told you there were some half topics in there, is how do other people solve this problem differently? So here you have the opportunity to pull in your team. What are the different considerations people would take on your team, sometimes by role, you know? What is the UX person's answer to this question versus what is the QA person's answer to this question? How does a marketer feel about this solution as opposed to the engineer? Is this an opportunity to introduce a standard? If somebody's asking a question and you need to research the answer, well, maybe this is a good time to set some precedent. Or maybe it's time to just start a whole exploratory project, but that's a different case. So is it an opportunity to add documentation? If you find yourself answering a question with, I don't know, then maybe this is a question, the answer to which should be documented somewhere. Number 5, as I mentioned, you get to learn something. So whether you learn the research process or whether you learn about the opinions of the other people on your team, you probably get the opportunity to learn the answer to your question, which is so much fun. I think learning is probably one of the reasons that we're all here in tech, and I'll get into that way more in a couple of minutes. So, see one, do one, teach one. I toss that in here because I think it's a really important part of the learning process and really helps you lock in the answer to things that you don't know. Anytime you're learning something new, one of the best ways to learn is to see somebody demonstrate the answer or read the answer, and then try doing it yourself. Lots of people learn well by doing. And then the next best thing after that is to teach one. And I know a lot of folks today have been mentioning the great value, can't walk away from the microphone, the great value of writing about technology and writing about your learning process. So this is how they are teaching one. You don't necessarily have to be sitting next to somebody and teaching it to them. You don't necessarily have to train the next engineer to join your team, though that's a great opportunity too. But if you're even learning all by yourself, in your home, in your hoodie, in your slanket, with your, anyway, like mug of hot chocolate or whatever, you can still write about it. You can still get that experience of teaching somebody how to do this thing that you just learned for yourself, and that's really cool. So, this one's a little bit dubious. I consider this one to be maybe sometimes a little bit of an emotional stretch when you're in the process of discovering the answer to a question you didn't know. But I think we can take a moment sometimes, if we're doing well with our Zen, to revel in the fact that the technology field is constantly changing. So there's lots to know. You'll never learn it all. Even if nothing else new ever happened in technology, it would take us all the rest of our lives to learn everything that's out there now. We probably still couldn't do it. So change is the only constant. They say that if you're still teaching the same class in 5 years that you taught today, then either your field is dead or you are. And that's, that's not something you have to worry about in tech. At best, you have like 1 or 2 years before your knowledge needs refreshing. So we can appreciate that sometimes when we're facing a situation where we have to say we don't know, that, yay, tech keeps changing. So, like I said, sometimes it's a small saving grace. So 7, and this is the biggest, most awesome one that I love, probably the most out of all of these, is you have the opportunity to build a culture of learning. So I have an XKCD up here, which you probably can't read. It's about, how there are things that people consider everyone knows, but that's not really true. And when you have the opportunity to teach something everyone knows to somebody who didn't know it before, that's actually a really fun opportunity and way, way cooler than just being obnoxious about it. So saying, what kind of an idiot doesn't know about the Yellowstone supervolcano is so much more boring than telling someone about the Yellowstone supervolcano for the first time. So kind of really loving that process of learning and educating and sharing and opportunity. I think probably a lot of us, and I hope not too many of you, but probably a lot of us have been on a team where there was not a culture of learning, where people were either they had a lot of ego in the way or were just really afraid of, being questioned or doubted or admitting that they didn't know something. And those teams are not great learning environments for anybody who's new to the field. They're not really a lot of fun, and I feel like everybody in those situations kind of tends to be on pins and needles, right? Everybody's tiptoeing around each other, trying not to step on anybody else, trying not to offend people or question people because, they'll all bristle up and get very upset if you doubt them and question them. And the culture of learning is the antithesis of that. It's everybody being curious, everybody being fresh and naive to an enjoyable extent, and enthusiastic and embracing those opportunities to say that they don't know. So I would argue that learning is, if not our number one, then one of our major purposes here on Earth. It's massive. Why do we grow from infancy to wisdom in our old age? It's because we're here to gain experience. We're here to learn new things, experience new things, share them with other people. So that's my meaning of life. Not knowing, I consider to be a really exciting opportunity. If you ask me something that I don't know, I get to learn something. If I get to ask you something you don't know, you get to learn something, and maybe I get to teach you something, and that is really cool. So my suggestion is that we approach the opportunity to say, I don't know, with a sense of wonder. So get out there and show them what you don't know. Thank you very, very much. Again, here's my info.